With that, I think we should establish the quorum. Jamie?
Will do. I'll go ahead and call roll. Commissioner Crane.
Present.
Commissioner G.
Here.
Commissioner Carter.
Here.
Chair Bedard.
Here.
And Vice Chair Wheeler.
Here.
We do have a quorum of 5 commissioners present.
Thank you. And would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Will do. Let me just go ahead and share my screen, and if I can ask everyone to be on mute. Okay. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on items which are not currently on the agenda?
I do not currently see any hands raised. We don't currently have anyone in the audience. Our new city manager was supposed to be in attendance, and hopefully when he's able to join, I can have him introduce himself. But at the moment, there are no requests to speak during public comment.
Thank you, Jamie. With that, let's go into the informational items, beginning with number 1, receiving information from the county staff. Rose or Stephen?
Yeah, I'll go first. Sorry, I was just trying to pull up my presentation here. Let me, give me 1 second. You know, I had it all ready to go. I hit the wrong button.
Technology always chooses when it wants to work.
Yeah, I swear. I know I've got it downloaded here. All right, let me. Rose, do you want to go first while I try to figure out where I left this thing?
Sure, not a problem. Let me go ahead.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen. All right. All right, so this is my report for the Los Altos and Woodland. Our summer reading signups have ended, so now patrons can receive their prizes for summer reading. Children, thanks to the Friends of the Library, do get a free book, a certificate, and also a coupon that they could use at the Friends book sale, which is happening at the library today through Sunday, or for any future book sale at the, that's what the Friends are putting on. The teens will receive an Amazon gift card, also thanks to the Friends, and the adults are entered into a drawing for a free Kindle. So these are Los Altos Woodland specific prizes for all participants who completed the summer reading program. Statistics, you'll see for items checked out, it did go down slightly in July, which is actually pretty normal for Los Altos Woodland because of people traveling. We sometimes do see a decline in some of our statistics over the summer due to that. Items returned did increase though by almost a little over 1,000. Patrons served at the library though did increase, and you'll see I do have the statistics for Woodland now added. Since we opened June 21st, I just have July as the first full month of statistics for Woodland. Patrons served online did also drop a little bit for Los Altos and remain consistent for Woodland. And you'll see, even though Woodland wasn't open the whole month of June, patrons were still using our online services. So that remained pretty consistent. Programming. This was a pretty interesting program. We had a an art show in our lobby, and this was a program that they hosted to complement the paintings that were up in the library in July. And it was a poetry reading and concert that took place at the History Museum. So you'll see it was a nice little environment with a good turnout for this program. These are our ads that we had, thanks to Lolly for sponsoring them, and for our awareness subcommittee for helping out with the one on the left, upper left hand. But this one is our Talon one for the Los Altos newspaper, high school newspaper. And these are our two that go into the town crier. And I know Steve will be talking about this in his report, but we have launched our Storytime Online, which is our librarians have been working on it for several months now. And I really wanted, we have two librarians. You'll see Jean, this is our children's librarian, Jean, who does the Mandarin Storytime. And our children's librarian, Karen Dixon, who have worked really, really hard behind the scenes to help the team work on this project and get it up and running. I would like to go to our website to just show you after this a little bit, a clip of the story time. It's just very professionally done. There are story times in Mandarin, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese. They're bilingual in English and in Spanish. So, and they do have subtitles for, to comply with ADA. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to our website to show you a clip of it. Let's see. Maybe that was the wrong one. Sorry. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Is this it? I don't think so. Let me go ahead and open it up really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let me know if you can't hear this. I'm just gonna play this. Can you hear it? Okay.
大家好，我是 Miss Jean。I am one of the children's librarian at Santa Clara County Library District. 经常 Miss Jean 是在 Los Altos Library 上班。今天我们要讲什么故事？我要给小朋友3个线索，大家来猜猜看。第一个线索 ，the first clue 是。
I just want to give you a little snippet. I don't want to take up too much time. But if you do go to our website, our Storytime page, just right here. My internet's cooperating. You'll see the different languages, and you could click on them, and there'll be some story times highlighted, and then there will be also story time pieces like the finger plays and stuff from it. So it's a very we're really happy to have this project available for our patrons. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll let Steve go on with his report.
Thank you. Take 2 here. So, share screen. Okay, can everybody see that? All right. So sorry for the earlier difficulties. The first thing I want to talk about was we have some new Scholastic online resources. So I'm sure you've all heard of the publisher Scholastic, and we've partnered with them to provide additional services and online materials for our kids. So these are, dives into science and different ebooks. There's a watch and learn library that are kind of a little more interactive. separated by grade level, and it's just another great resource that we can use to communicate with our kids. Rose was just mentioning the new Storytime Online, so I won't go too much into that beyond to saying that, I don't know if you know this, but Jean is actually an international superstar. So she's been doing story times on Facebook for the last year and a half, and she has built up quite a following, and we know people are watching from all over the world to watch her do her story times. So it's been really impressive. And of course, we wanted to get her involved in this new Storytime Online page. As Rose mentioned, it involves story times, songs, rhymes, finger plays. So they're kind of like smaller chunks. They're not like a full 40-minute story time, 30-minute story time. These are much shorter, and people can kind of mix and match what they want to watch. We've identified categories, so if they're interested in a particular topic, they can find that, find the associated activity, and view it whenever they'd like. So we're really excited to provide that to our patrons. August calendar events. So some things I wanted to highlight. We have our online programming still. We have our ESL conversation clubs that are very popular. So this is a chance for non-native English speakers to come and just practice their English. You know, no pressure, no tests, nothing like that. Just a chance to come in and talk about a specific topic, and they just practice as best they can. We also have, yeah.
I think you're on page 4 of your presentation. We're currently on page 2 still.
Did I skip one?
Well, we're still on page 2, not page 4.
I think it's just
Is it frozen?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing the your
Oh, okay.
slides go forward.
All right, more technical difficulties, right? Let me see
Sometimes
I
if
can...
you go off video, it helps. Just a suggestion.
Okay, can you see Scholastic again?
Yep.
Okay. Storytime Online?
Yep.
All right, now we got it. Okay, so we also have a few author talks coming up, and I think one of those was highlighted in Rose's report as well, Secret San Jose on August 23rd. And we also have the untold story of the 1887 burning of San Jose's Chinatown. So please join us for those events if you can. Mercury News, everybody say Merc? Yeah, okay, good. So we now have full online access to the Mercury News for our patrons. This is something that we've kind of had in the past in a format that was a little bit difficult to use, but now it's in a much easier format. We can go all the way back. I don't know if you can see the dates there. We can go all the way back to 1886 to 1922, and then it skips a lot, and it goes to 1985 to present. The reason for the skip is it's just not digitally available right now. But another great resource for our patrons. And this is pretty exciting. So in our Saratoga Library location, this is the teen room there, we had a teen artist create this wonderful mural that you see there. It's Alice in Wonderland based. Took her about a week to do it. She would work like 3 or 4 hours a day, and it turned out beautifully. So if you ever get a chance to go to Saratoga, please check it out. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the commissioners? I'll go around the horn and start off with Vice Chair Wheeler.
I can't hear her.
Please no questions about my technological prowess, please.
I'm so glad you went first, Steve. When I do mine, I'll look like a pro.
There you go, do it.
Maybe. So I have a question for Rose. Rose, the Scholastic online resources that Steve just put up, is that what you were referring to as something we would want to advertise in a Lolly ad?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Carter?
No, my question was what Freddie already asked.
I have a question about your cat.
Oh,
But Commissioner G? Nelvin, any questions?
No questions.
And Commissioner Crane.
No questions.
So of course I always have questions. Who is, does Jean have an agent? I mean, she's done, I know she's an international star, and I've seen her on Facebook. I mean, this is a really good thing that happened not as a result of the pandemic, but it shows the library pivoting with a great service.
Yeah, are you volunteering to be her agent?
Sure. You know what? I know that we can get good money out of the county for her services. Absolutely.
You just walked right into that one, Steve. What does agent mean? It means more money.
More money, more money. You know what's been great about that whole thing was that, it is true that she's an international superstar, but being able to just get her around in our county without her having to drive to all the other locations, it's all right there. It's been really helpful to a lot of other communities. So, great exposure for Los Altos.
Great, thank you. And another question, just on the Mercury News availability, is that only in library or is that available on the website?
On the website, you should be able to find it.
Cool, thank you. So thank you very much, Rose and Steve. Are there any questions from other attendees for Rose and Steve before we move to the next item? Raise your hand or.
I see no hands raised at this time.
Great. So do we have a representative? Is Cheryl here from the Friends of the Library?
I do not see her. I will go back in and just re-forward, but maybe we can come back to Friends if she's able to join.
Cool. I know the Friends are having a sale right now for books in the library for nonfiction books. And there is a children's sale that's going on this weekend, I believe. So those two items are worth a mention. And with that, we'll go to item number 3, update from NCLA and Lolly.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's Cindy. I'm here again. So NCLA is going to have a meeting on Monday, August 30th, starting at 5:30. The agenda has not yet been set, and I want to confirm with the Library Commission that you want to be on the agenda to speak with them, update them. You might want to give me a topic, so just let me know, send me an email, and I'll be sure to get that on the agenda and let you know. And the primary reason for this meeting is to talk about our finances and make sure that the city is transferring over what they're supposed to be transferring over. The next meeting will be in October, and that will be, there's a theme for that one, and I can't remember what it is right now. It's so far into the future. Lolly, we meet on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, and I will be sending out the draft agenda right after this meeting. So I will send it to Freddie and others. Last month, between our meetings, between last month and now, we have been spending a lot of time on our web redesign, including its content, its look and feel. Part of that is because we need to make the transfer from our current web host site because he is retiring and he's passing over all of his clients to others. So we've been interviewing webmasters and online people. And so that's actually very exciting. We've also been looking for somebody to do our finances. We need a tax accountant, and we need somebody to take a look and make sure we have the right tax status, given where most of the majority of our income comes from. And we now have a speaker for the Science and Technology Week, which will be held in September. And I will pause on the date because I don't have it in front of me. I want to say September 12th, but I'm not positive about that. And we have a speaker from Google, and she is going to be talking about artificial intelligence. We've asked her to bring it to the layperson's level of vocabulary and understanding. I'm looking forward to it because I know Google's been doing a lot in this area for many years, plus many other organizations have. And it'll be interesting to see how artificial intelligence is already connected with us and how it might look in the future. So that's my quick update. Any questions on either one? I know, excuse me, I know that in both cases, we will be inviting the new city manager to meet with us so that he can put faces to names and figure out all of these organizations that are library connected.
We'll start off with Vice Chair Wheeler. Questions?
Not right now. We can discuss
Come back.
later. I'll come back.
And Commissioner Carter,
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner G, Commissioner Carter,
No.
and shockingly, I have no questions.
And you forgot,
Thank you.
you forgot Commissioner Crane. You did Carter.
Oh, Commissioner, sorry, apologies. I'm
No
having a
worries.
rough night.
You know, just out of curiosity, you said that you wanted to make sure that the city was paying you what they should. Was there any concern in that regard?
Well, there's been a longstanding discussion about how much needs to be transferred back over to us, because a part of it includes interest and just, I don't know if you've been reading or noticed that the city finances are not askew, but they're difficult to track through because we've had a number of changes in staff. So we've been very fortunate that we've had a previous finance director who retired from the city many years ago. He understands how the city has been keeping the books. And so he's been able to go in there with the city staff and take a look and track forward from the day we gave the money to the city to put into their fund account to the current. And now we're just doing a final audit on the numbers, both groups, to make sure it's the right amount. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
You know, I do have a question, Cindy. What was the money and transferred for?
Oh, several years ago, we had made the decision after evaluating where our money was that we could possibly earn more interest going to the city's account, moving it out of whatever account we had it in, which I think was a county account. Since then, we have learned that we actually would be better going back into the county. So that's why we're making that transfer.
Okay.
And also the county offers services that are funded through whatever we put in there, that basically bookkeeping, paying our bills. So it relieves the city from doing that type of task. And we have it all in one place.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move to item number 4, information and announcements from city staff.
Thank you, Pierre. So in the report, I'll just do a brief highlight and then I have a few other updates. We do have our upcoming Los Altos Hills, Los Altos softball game, and that's scheduled for August 14th. It is going to be held, we tend to rotate, and it has been a little while since we've held it. I think the last one we held was in 2019. And so this one will be held in Los Altos Hills at Parisma Park, and it's from 1 to 3 p.m. We're also getting ready to release information for our fall season of programming, and we're really excited for this one because up to this point, we've mainly been doing outdoor in-person programs with mixed in with some virtual, and this is the first season that we're actually going to foray into indoor in-person programs, obviously hoping and everything continues to go as planned, but we have information. Residents will be able to register August 16th, with non-residents being able to register starting on the 19th. We will have a postcard going out to everyone to remind you to look at our website. And again, just a reminder, we have upgraded to a new software called Civic Rec. So if you have not utilized that software system, we did not carry over accounts, and so you would need to spend just a few minutes to set it up, but it is very easy. And so please come and check out all of the classes, and the link is in the report. Additionally, we are continuing the virtual recreation center. And again, it's just a location where activities and different resources are listed. And then obviously we're keeping those COVID-19 resource pages updated on the city's website as well. A few other updates that I did want to make. First is we did have a resignation on the commission. Commissioner Chan from Los Altos Hills did resign her position on the commission. And so I did touch base with their city clerk, and they're going to be recruiting for that position soon. But I just wanted to update the commission that we do currently have a vacancy. But it is a Los Altos Hills position, so it does have to be specific to the Hills representative. The second is our grand opening for the Los Altos Community Center. We did have a press release go out, but it is planned for Saturday, October 2nd at 2 p.m. And so we're looking to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and then obviously inviting the community in to see the space and what is planned as far as activating and what you can see in those spaces. So please mark your calendar. Obviously, additional information will be coming out, but we just want to make sure that we get the date and the time out there. So please mark your calendars, and we hope to see you there. And then the final one is just more for the next meeting, but we are going to be adjusting at least a little bit on the order for, it's gone in different waves. Sometimes we've had informational items up front, and then we go into our action items, but we are trying to be more standardized, at least with the commissions. And so our action items will come up front first, but Pierre and I kind of talked about it is, I think, important for the county staff to have that ability to share updates of what's going on in their programs. So we're going to include an action item for them to be upfront and share that information. So just wanted to share with the commission that will be an adjustment for starting with our September meeting, with the action items being upfront, followed by the informational items. All the other items on the agenda will still remain the same. Those are the only two that are flopping, so to speak. But that is it for me, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to switch the order and go first on the questions, but and a comment. I was very sad to see Virginia go. She was a very good commissioner, did a lot of good stuff for us, but we got to marshal on, and hopefully we'll get a good replacement from Los Altos Hills. Also, we have 3 openings in September that I know my term is up. Commissioner Crane, Commissioner Carter, our terms are all up, and I think everybody's going to try to stick to it, which is good. I know, just so everyone knows, I did reapply, so you can show up and give your thoughts as to whether my application should be accepted or not.
Well, I've already replied.
And I hopefully Commissioner Crane has also. So, and I'm very happy. That's great. I mean, I think this is, if you're like me, I like being on this commission in whatever capacity. It's the library matters. But in terms of that, my question, I guess the other comment on the agenda items, I think I personal opinion, as one commissioner, that getting Rose's and Stephen's input up front was a very good start to the meeting. Plus, if a member of the public wants to know what's going on with the library in the next month. It really makes it clear cut, and we know it's going to come. You know, the timing is good. The other items will be dispersed on the back end. And so we'll be able to get more into discussions. And again, this is to mesh with the standard operating procedure for most commissions that the city is putting forth. So with that, those are my comments. Julie, Commissioner Crane, any questions for?
No, thank you.
Commissioner G?
I don't have any questions.
And I'll get it right. Commissioner Carter.
Yes, no questions.
And Vice Chair Wheeler.
One question, one comment. I too am very, very sad to see Virginia resign. She was an invaluable member of the awareness subcommittee, so creative and really worked and carried the weight of the commission. I mean, she did many, many good things, and so sad to see her go. My other question, I don't mean to be impertinent, but or rude or anything, but is Yen still a member of the commission? Is she has not been here, and I'm just wondering, is she ill?
No, so she is actually, and she let us know she was, she's out of the state at the moment and was hoping to join, but where she is currently vacationing, connection would not have been good. So she did let us know for this one that she would not be able to attend, but she is planning to attend the next one.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. So with that, shall we approve some minutes?
Or not.
And or not. I'll put a motion out to approve the minutes of the meeting of July 1st, 2021 as presented.
I have some amendments. Okay.
All
right. Number one, if you take a look at the minutes, they talk. Oh shoot! I printed out the. Where are they? Printed them out. It talks about the. I'm sorry. It talks about the. Can you keep scrolling down? This is.
Yeah.
Commissioner, the subcommittee met. Commissioner G clarified that this presentation should be classified under the future subcommittee. I think the minutes would read better if you put Commissioner G's proposal, what he had to say, under the future subcommittee. The infrastructure subcommittee also had a report, which is not mentioned at all. So this is completely, I mean, this is inaccurate at best. And I think it needs to be amended to reflect that Commissioner G's presentation was the future subcommittee, and that the infrastructure subcommittee did make a presentation on the Woodland expansion plans.
We can go ahead and make that adjustment. The original, what addition, and do you just want the minutes to note the presentation on the Woodland expansion?
That'll be fine. Yeah, it's, we don't record these meetings, so, or I guess we do, but no, it's too much to go back. Just correct it, I think would be fine.
No, happy to make that amendment.
Okay, Dave. Thank you.
So can I put a motion that we approve the minutes as amended by Vice Chair Wheeler, moving the presentation, the note of the presentation by Commissioner G to the future subcommittee, and adding a segment in the infrastructure subcommittee about the Woodland expansion.
That would
Did I
work.
correct?
I can, if that's a motion, I'll second it.
It was a motion.
Okay.
Okay, I will go ahead and call roll. Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Yes.
Chair Bedard,
Yes.
and Commissioner Crane.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0.
Thank you. The next item, action item, is revisiting of the curbside drop-off. And the services subcommittee met and discussed and updated the report. Commissioner Crane, would you like to take us through it?
Yes, happy to. Let me get it bigger on the screen here. So this is a continuation of the presentation that was made at last meeting. We did take it back and we've made a few changes to it. We also spoke to Rose, who was provided some information with respect to what was happening in other locations. So we are bringing back a proposal to implement the curbside drop-off points in the form of large boxes on the library property. And I think you'll see at the end of this document, we've provided some examples. You don't need to scroll through it just yet, but this is very, I'm sorry, if you look down at the bottom of this first page, you'll see that the demand was high among patrons. It was one of the highest things that has been, that was stated there. And so we felt it appropriate, given our charge, to bring this back to the committee. On the second page, you'll see a discussion which is substantially similar to what we discussed last time with respect to the main library and the potential drop-off points. Again, these are just suggestions. We did add, if you move to the third page, our good Woodland Library and the thought of where that might be actually simpler to do it at Woodland, I think, certainly than Los Altos. We've put in there the positive impact on the parking, and part of this was based upon information that Rose provided to us. The city of Cupertino had done a very substantial review of its own parking needs and issues, and so they had this information in their report. So we took this information, the idea that actually having these drop-off boxes could alleviate certain parking spaces. Again, we don't know if that's true, and I think it depends upon the study that's done by the city. We've added that there is library staff support for this. They're currently working with 2 other county libraries to implement the service. And then there's a statement of low cost, and we included what they might look like. They do come with these carts on wheels for a little added cost, which would, assist the library staff in collecting this. So I will pause there. Pierre, did you want to add anything?
My only hope is that tonight, can you boost it up just a little bit, Jamie, and go to 100%?
Yeah, it's hard to read.
Thank you. My only hope is that tonight we as a commission can vote to move this forward and start discussions with, approve this report and start discussions with the relevant city people and Rose to see about implementing this, if at all possible. It was, if you go back to the first page again, Jamie. There's, the approach we're taking is really to hit the top number items, whether it's the opening hours, and this was number 2 on the list, so we're tackling that. And that's what drove this report and proposal, and that's it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. My question is, where is the money coming from to buy these boxes?
A very good question. I believe, I know that, I mean, I can't speak for the Friends, but I was directly asked by the Friends, some of the Friends leadership, if we were proposing this. And I think that, you know, I believe that it could be funded by the Friends of the Library.
And how many boxes are they talking about? Are you talking about?
So I think at Woodland Library, it would be one box. I think we would have to work with this, with the county library to determine, you know, the usefulness of it. I'm not exactly sure about Los Altos. I think it depends upon parking. And I would add to what Pierre said. I think at last week's meeting, the representative of the Friends actually came out very strongly in favor of this proposal, stating, yeah, her support for it. So I think we would go to the Friends. It's a relatively low cost. And again, given the positive feedback and the high votes it got in the community, we thought it should at least be looked at.
Do I have a question?
Mhm.
So are you considering Woodland as like the pilot for this project? And I know in my experience, trying to find a parking place at the main library is the challenge. Not so much Woodland. What are the obstacles at the of implementing this at the main library?
So from my understanding, the obstacles are the parking and the logistics. So we would have to see if there is an opportunity for us to place this in a way that wouldn't, you know, sort of aggravate an already difficult situation, and if it would actually alleviate some of the congestion. We haven't proposed Woodland as a pilot. I put it in there separately because I'm a big fan of Woodland, and I think it is uniquely suited to Woodland, given its, you know, single lane entrance and the fact that there is space for a box right in front of the walkway. So we haven't come out and put that as a pilot, but basically support them both. Especially since I think it would alleviate some of the parking situations if we can find a spot for it at the main library.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be wonderful at the main library because parking at the main libraries is just not fun. And so many people are trying to drop off books. And if you're circling, waiting for those 2 parking spots to get empty, a lot of people don't use those just to drop off a box for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And so it would be, I would be all in favor. I mean, I'm in favor of doing this. I think it's a good project. I would also be very much in favor of trying to do a feasibility on placing at least 1 box at the main library.
And I think go ahead. Pierre.
I was just gonna, I agree. I think it's both, you know, it's both libraries could use this. But we need to engage with the city on the parking, you know, that, I mean, there's other issues.
Traffic or parking?
I think Jamie.
It would have to, at least for placement, especially if it's kind of that drop-off location, we would have to look at traffic and how that would, that's my initial thought, but that's definitely not my area of expertise. So as Pierre kind of highlighted, we would need to figure out where this would be best suited to work out those logistics. Well, but my initial thought is traffic.
Whose bailiwick is that with the city?
So we actually do have a brand new traffic, our transportation manager, who is Marisa Lee. And so she's been with the city for a short time. I know it's been over a month, but I'm not, so she is relatively new. But my initial thought is that at least flow in those spaces, that's my initial thought. And that actually falls under engineering.
So is she, okay, wait a minute. So just to clarify, is she part of engineering or?
Correct.
So she's part of engineering. So if if the commission were to pass this and say, we think this is a great proposal for both Woodland and the main library, would it then go to her for her to do her assessment of where this box could be placed without messing up the traffic pattern?
That would be my initial thought. Yes.
Okay, so that would solve the city's yes or no, and then Rose, do you have an issue with these boxes?
No, I don't. I would, just like with Cupertino Library, I would like to work with the city to see, where the placement of the box is compared to where the library is, and make sure it works for our staffing situation as well, because, we have to consider those effects.
Well, yeah, okay, so you need it to be placed somewhere in the reasonable vicinity of the library. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You don't want to cross San Antonio Road with the cart? What's wrong? Okay.
Play a game of Frogger. The only thing I would add is there's also a branding opportunity there. So we've worked with some other libraries where whoever funds it, we can put some kind of branding that kind of highlights either a library service or a library support group or whatever it ends up being. So we'd like to work with whoever whichever committee starts developing this. We can work with them to figure out what we want to do there.
Well, it sounds to me like this is something that we should pursue for both Woodland and the main library. I mean, definitely the feasibility study for the main library. Definitely.
Yeah, and I understand. Woodland would be easier, right? Because there's kind of like that clear placement. Los Altos is a little trickier because you want to make sure you're not interfering with the current parking and the traffic flow, and making sure that it's in a location that works for our staff too. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great idea and it's a great service. It's just making sure we get it right there.
But we'll never know unless we ask the city to do the feasibility study for the traffic. So, I mean, why are we not asking them? I mean, I'm voting yes for this one in a heartbeat.
Any further questions?
Yeah, two quick questions. One is, I take it that the carts fit inside the overall box. So therefore, when the cart is full, you just pull it out from the box. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So it's a locked cabinet essentially. So you unlock it and the carts just roll out. And one of the, I don't know if you want to consider this too, but one of the things that Cupertino was thinking about was having extra bins, right? So they can have those empties that they just slide right in there and take and those cost a little bit extra. I mean, it's pretty nominal.
Uh-huh. Now, has any library in the district implemented this yet, or are we all talking about at the same time?
It's pretty much the same time. So Cupertino's a little bit ahead of you. So they're working on placement, and they're going to build a little like a median strip, or they're going to adjust their median strip right in front of the library. And then Morgan Hill, they had gotten some distance on it, and then the pandemic hit. And honestly, I'm not sure exactly where they are with that. But yeah.
Okay. And one last question then. How do you go about monitoring how full the bin is? Is this just a case of creating a schedule and just adjusting that schedule?
It is. There's no real way to monitor it. We'll kind of get an idea of how quickly it fills up after a short period of time, and empty it when it needs to. I can't imagine it would be more than like once a day, but
gosh, I kind of believe there's a smart device out there that would work.
Maybe, yeah, could be.
Where you would put a weight sensor on it, and you can check it on a regular basis, or have an alert when the weight exceeds a certain amount.
Yeah, could be.
That's the one that costs $7,000 as opposed to the $500 one.
Well, I was going to say that's Nelvin's business opportunity right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Pierre, are you going to work on that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
While you're double dutying as an agent for Gene.
Well, one will fund the other.
And Chair Bedard, Councilmember Meadows has her hand raised.
Oh.
What, you guys think I sleep through these? I'm wide awake. No, actually, I have a question, and I'm sure Pierre, you and Julie
talked about this, but what, are people going to use these boxes for their book donation drop-offs? I mean, obviously they're not going to be labeled for friends library drop-offs. And, if you get a book that doesn't have all the library bar scans and everything on it, then you can assume it's a donation. But is there an intent to see whether these are used with true library books or whether people are donating their materials?
So I can answer this one. So this is something we deal with all the time.
Yeah.
So, we get books from other locations, we get books from other districts, we get books from all over. We get textbooks from kids who accidentally drop off all their, maybe accidentally, I don't know, maybe they're doing it on purpose. Yeah, so we have a relationship with, relationships and mechanisms to get those books to the appropriate district level. If it's a matter of a donation, of course, we would just work with the friends to figure that out. It's usually pretty clear. I mean, if there's nothing on it, we'll assume it's a donation.
Right, but just in terms of proportion, do you find that 95% of your books are where they're supposed to be? The 95% of the books in the box are
Yeah.
library books, and maybe some smaller proportion isn't? Or, I mean, if you end up with 50-50, that
higher. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you end up with 50-50, I'm just typically up numbers here, but then it becomes an issue. So please finish.
That is true. Yeah, that would be something we'd have to look at if it happens. But typically, right now, it's probably like 99% books are ours.
Okay, that's great.
Here and there.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually had the same thought, but I didn't vocalize it, that people would start donating books in there. But thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Carter, any questions? You're on mute, but I read your lips and you say no.
Sorry?
And I thought you were on mute. I didn't hear what you said.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay. No, I asked the question about the source of the funding. My impression at this point is that you're talking about one box to be placed at Woodland as a trial. Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
We're going to go for both sites at the same time.
That makes more sense, because I don't think that Woodland, in my opinion, has a problem with books being dropped off or getting a parking place. But the main library is a different story. And I would be interested in seeing where the box is placed in the main library, for the main library.
And this is Julie. I would agree. I think the issue is more convenience at Woodland, not necessarily to alleviate parking, and it might be just easier to get the box placed at Woodland. Given the layout, it might take a little bit more time to identify a good alternative at the main library.
Are there any other questions? One comment, this may be good, as we should also take advantage of Commissioner G's parking study and make sure that gets people see that again, because I think there was some good stuff in there.
Like this new transportation person.
Yes. So with that, shall we put it to a vote? Jamie, would you like to take roll on that?
Jamie, you're muted.
Yeah, it would be helpful if I take myself off mute. I actually, I don't have noted, did anyone make a motion to, I don't think we've done a motion yet.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Services Subcommittee report and take it forward to the city for placement of drop-off boxes at Woodland and the main library site.
I will second that.
Sorry, just taking note. I will go ahead and take roll. I'll start with Commissioner G.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wheeler. Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Crane.
Yes.
and Chair Bedard.
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0.
Thank you all. And thanks, Julie, for the presentation.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna, the next item is a work plan. I tried to get together with Commissioner Liu on this and I was unable to in the last period of time since our last meeting. So I'm going to suggest we go straight into the commissioners' reports and comments, starting with the infrastructure subcommittee, unless somebody voices a strenuous objection.
Can I go last? The infrastructure, can I go last, please?
I don't think, is it something we need to vote on or
No,
no?
it's just
Not a problem.
It's just a longer presentation and then just perhaps a discussion at the end. It's
Great. Well then,
discussed.
I'll give the services subcommittee report real quickly. We met and obviously we had some good work product that we were able to take from Commissioner's hand and push forward. We'll continue meeting with Rose, myself, and Julie and pursuing, we don't have a next target for the services subcommittee, though I have been updating some of the services on the ersatz website that I put together at library.bedard.com and getting some, getting some exposure to the community as to some of the work we've done along those lines. So with that, I'd like to turn it over. Well, are there any questions? None? So let's talk, is there any report from the awareness subcommittee?
Yes, so I want to share my screen. Is that my desktop? Crap.
It is.
Well, I don't see anything. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, let me see my desktop again. That doesn't look like, oh, wait a minute. Did you say it had to be open? Ah, wait a minute. Okay, hang on, sorry.
Yes, it does have to be open.
Okay, sorry. Okay, now I will share my screen. I want to shoot this one. Okay. Okay.
Ah, perfect.
All right. So this is hopefully, Rose, something like what the August ad will look like in next week's Town Crier. We will be featuring the Go-Go Biblio and making it known that it is available for your community events. So you can talk to the library, call the library, find out if you can book it for a community event like a neighborhood get together, whatever.
Okay, Freddie?
Yes?
The text that is showing here is not the text that is going to be on the ad, because if you will note, we made corrections. It should be movies, not moves, full of fun and imagination.
Oh, you're right. Okay, you're right. We did make
So this is
movies full of fun and imagination. There's another version.
Yeah,
You're right.
we have approved.
Yes, that we have approved. It will look similar to this, and there will be this notation here that the Go-Go Biblio was made possible by a grant from Los Altos Library Endowment. So that's going to be the ad for August. Okay, so then let me share, let me open the September ad. Okay, this is what the September ad should look like, something like this. There are sometimes differences between the ads that we approve and send to Rose, because she has to translate from Word or PDFs, you know, and other things to her software, which is Publisher. So we try to do the best to replicate, but sometimes it's not possible. But we are taking Cindy Hill's suggestion and featuring the suggest a purchase ability, so that you can go online and suggest a book that you'd like the library to purchase. And you can suggest up to 10 titles per month, and they will put an automatic hold on anything that you've suggested that they buy. So when it comes in, it's on automatic hold for you. You can track the title's progress on your dashboard. So there you go. That's my report for the Awareness Committee.
I have something to add to that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, you do. I'm so sorry. Please do. Let me stop sharing. How do I stop sharing?
You stopped.
Oh, good. Okay.
Rose informed us that one of the areas that we serve is Stanford. And that's an area that we will be doing PSA outreach to find out if they have some publications or notifications, whatever you want to call it, that we can make particularly staff and faculty aware of things that the library might have to offer that they'd be interested in, to add to our other PSA outreach.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. The other thing that we can report on is we believe we do have the topic for 2 more months of our Lolly awareness ad. One is the fact that we have the Mercury News online now at the library, but we're also going to, in that same ad, let people know that there are other newspapers that are available, like the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, etc. So prominent, you know, now we have the Mercury News, and we're adding it to Wall Street Journal and New York Times, for example. And then the other one that Rose had suggested was the Scholastic, new online Scholastic resources that Steve talked about in his report. So we'll talk with Rose about how to actually feature that, how would be the best way to advertise that, and come up with an ad format. And Rose is going through and doing processes so that all of these PSAs, et cetera, will have a process so that they will get automatically done. And that's going to be great. There are some upcoming events, which I think we need to feature for PSAs coming up, but we can work on that with Rose and our subcommittee meetings. I think that's it for awareness. Rose.
Thank you.
Rose has her hand up.
Also have an update. I know this had come up at our subcommittee meeting, but thanks to Carol reaching out to the senior living facilities, the terraces, our librarian, one of our librarians is going out to do a presentation on library resources on the 12th. I know, Carol, you were asking about the date, so I was able to confirm that it's on the 12th, and it's a great outreach opportunity for our staff to really share what library resources are out there. So thank you.
Great. Super. That was a great suggestion, Carol, to get the, you know, the senior living facilities on their newsletters, because, you know, super audience. Okay, we're done.
Any other questions for awareness?
This is Julie. I was just going to offer that I work in Publisher if you ever need some help. It's actually pretty easy, and it looks hard, but once you get the knack of it, so if you need help, let me know.
Okay, that's Rose. Rose is the Publisher expert. I have never seen the software. So. I have been automated. Virginia, I thank her so much. She did this format for me so that I could, put in photo, images or text or whatever. I was cutting and pasting by hand
Oh,
all those months prior to that. So that was amazing. So,
okay.
okay.
So future subcommittee.
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to meet this last month for various reasons. However, what I would like to say is that for the next commission meeting, the future subcommittee would like to take a chunk of time to discuss, one, our progress on a roadmap for the future of Los Altos Library. And that would be a fairly brief discussion, but we have a much more substantive discussion regarding how do we get to a redeveloped main library, how can we restart those efforts? And what I would basically bring to the table for next month's meeting is essentially some background and supporting information, as well as a proposed work plan. And I would appreciate the advice of my fellow commissioners in terms of refining that work plan so we can get started.
Great.
Along the same lines, I'd like to share my screen really quickly and solicit feedback on something that I've put together, if that's okay, along with the futures, which is sort of relates to futures, Nelvin, Commissioner G. Is that all right for everybody? I'll be quick. So I've written a paper or a draft view of library naming rights for comment for people to look at. I've been working on this memo for maybe a year and a half, looking at what are naming rights, what are the jurisdictional and local issues specific to Los Altos and Santa Clara County, and what are some of the best practices. In this, I have definitions. I've looked at Sonoma County Library and their policies. And you can see I've included this PDF. Another public library in New York in Albany County, Guilderland Public Library, and how they approached it. Baldwin Public Library, how they approached it. Talked about the jurisdictional issues, who's in charge, the county, the city, the town of Los Altos Hills. Money. And also what's very interesting is that the city of Los Altos already does have a naming policy that John Maginot gave a memo, which I include here, that went to the redevelopment community back in 2018. So, and I put a recommendation in there. So if you have the time, I'd really appreciate folks looking at this. It can be found on library.bedard.com. And hopefully it's easy reading. I've spent a while working on it. And that's it. It's tied to futures. Yes.
What is the link again? You said it too fast.
Jamie, can you put it in the Q&A? Or somebody, it's library.bedard.com.
I'd be happy to forward that to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Pierre, I'm sorry to interrupt. Naming rights for what exactly?
For how we
Anything?
do it in Los Altos. Basically, if we built a new library or a room or a bench or collections,
Gotcha.
how has it been done and how do other libraries do it?
Okay,
It comes
thank you.
down to the city council being able to do whatever they want.
It always does.
But someone had to research it to find that out. But it may come in handy in terms of as we do look to the future and see about funding. At least it's a start, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thanks
we
for
do
your
have
time.
some examples of that in our own county, so I can look into that too.
Well, I've detailed that out in the paper.
Oh, you do it? Okay.
Yeah, I went and looked at what our county does, what Santa Clara County does. Anyway, but Jamie will send out the link and thank you. And with that, Commissioner Wheeler, I
Okay,
think you're up.
I want to share screen. Am I sharing screen?
You are.
Okay. So just put this presentation together. This presentation started out to be the presentation that we were going to present to the NCLA, but it has morphed. And I'll just give you an overview, just one. We had a meeting with Jennifer and Jennifer Weeks and with Rose to talk about Woodland in particular, and then the main library as well, and some considerations about it, about both libraries. And so, and timing, I think, was one of the bigger issues. This presentation has changed, and so it's now titled "A Phased Reimagining of the Woodland Library, the Current Space and the Potential for Expansion." Here's the Woodland Library as in its current state. It has this configuration. This is the area. All of this is vacant, empty lot that is being considered for the expansion area. This is why we were originally talking about expansion. So the population of Los Altos as a whole has increased about 20% since 1975 when the Woodland branch opened. So we can assume that South Los Altos grew about the same amount. The reason this entire project started was that adults have complained to me and certain council members about the noise level at Woodland, and it makes the branch undesirable to use to read, study, and to work at times for adults. And it's just because the building is, the branch is small and sound carries throughout the entire branch. And during the school year, St. Simon students are found at the branch. They use it prior to parental pickup a lot. The St. Simon student body remains steady at 450 students. They said they are, they have waiting lists. So they expect their student population to remain the same. They also characterize the Woodland branch as essential for their program. The current footprint is less than 5,000 square foot. And as you saw, the property has plenty of room for expansion. Soundproofing portions of the library or providing isolated areas would be helpful for adults in particular, as the noise carries throughout the current floor plan. And the purpose of this document is to discuss how Woodland may be reimagined to accommodate open access in the near future, and then eventually better serve all of its patrons. So we're now looking at a two-phase, and we're calling it a reimagining of the Woodland Branch Library. Phase one would be the immediate need to remodel, reconfigure the Woodland Branch in order to accommodate Open Plus. Phase two is the more long-term planning effort to expand the Woodland Branch to provide glass enclosed quiet areas, small meeting rooms, and a large community meeting room. Phase one requires the immediate needs. They will provide the opportunity to reimagine all of the Woodland Branch Library. Open Plus requires changes to the configuration of the internal layout of the Woodland Branch. The equipment that's currently located in the service counter area will need to be secured. And this will require a remodel of certainly portions of the internal area, of the interior, rather, of the branch. We're proposing hiring a library layout professional, whatever they are called, to assess Woodland to determine the best possible interior remodeling that would, one, or A, accommodate the Open Plus requirements, B, optimize the staff area, and C, maximize the separation of the children and adults areas to provide adults with a quiet area, or maybe a quieter area. And we believe that we were advised that the county has funding for such a feasibility study, and that would need to be confirmed with Steve and Rose and Jennifer. I believe Jennifer advised that the county has money to do this kind of a feasibility. This is the area that needs to be secured. This is the librarians and staff's counter at Woodland. And you can see they have their monitors and they have a lot of equipment that's out in the open. And it would need to be in a secured area during the open access hours without having any staff present. This is the staff area that Bryant, who is the librarian at Woodland, referred to me as less than optimal. So I think everybody, once they move into a space, it's less than optimal. But this is one large room, and then this is a room off to the side. And I don't know, somebody might be able to take a good look at this and decide that this could be arranged in a more optimal manner for the staff, especially considering that all of that counter area is going to have to be securable. I don't know if it's going to have to be in a room with a door or how they're going to work it out, because you do need access to the patrons. But someone will have a better idea than I do. This is the current layout of the Woodland area. And the point I want to make here is the children's area is right next door to the adult area. The computers that the adults use are right here. And the door that the kids use to go out to the back patio that makes so much noise is right there. So all the noise is right here, directly adjacent to the one area that the adults have to work and read. And so I was thinking that, we were thinking that if you had the opportunity to use the words reimagine Woodland, and you had all of this space available, maybe someone could design a layout that would separate the kids from the adults, give the staff a better organized area and access to patrons, but in a manner that could be secured for Open Plus. So this is phase one, and an opportunity to maybe make Woodland a better library in its current size for everyone, and have Open Plus as a pilot there. Then we'll go on to phase two. We've been planning this for about 2 years to try to make Woodland essentially what we're trying to do is make Woodland a library that adults will enjoy using. Again, the noise level is really too high for adults to enjoy working there or reading there. We have suggested an addition of approximately 4,400 square feet. That's a little less than the current size. The current building is 4,700 square feet. We've suggested constructing an expansion where all the interior walls would be glass and the doors would be glass that allow complete visibility for the librarian and the staff. And we were planning on presenting proposed plans for this expansion to the NCLA and asking them for a funding request for a feasibility study. But there are some issues that have come up that maybe make that not a feasible action item at this point. Again, this is just a study that shows that meeting and group study rooms, that was one of the things that Woodland rated very low on and could use. This is the pictures of the interior. This is the adult section. This right here, if you can see my cursor, can you see my cursor? Okay, that's the children's section. The computers are right here, right between the children's section, which occupies the majority of the patron space, and the adult section. No, I'm sorry. Where did I go? Okay. This is the rethought area that we might consider for expansion. At first, we had only considered this area. But if we're going to expand this at some point in time in the future, we might also consider expanding the back end, because we do have quite a bit of room for the 25-foot setbacks required. Here's the vacant land next to the building. Here is the strip that the city owns that we could expand parking. The park at the entrance is here. You could drive through. You could get rid of the exit here and just continue to drive through and have an exit here onto Grant and have all this much more space for parking. Okay. The infrastructure subcommittee went on a field trip July 17th to Morgan Hill and to Cupertino libraries, because both of them have recent expansion projects. Morgan Hill just completed a 5,000 square foot children's area expansion on the back of their library. About a third of the area is an open children's reading room, and the other 2/3 is a glass enclosed room for children's programs and for their meal program, and it complete with a kitchen area. This glass enclosed room also has sliding glass doors. And Cupertino is adding a 5,600 square foot 2-story expansion to their library. One floor will be devoted to children, the other will be community meeting rooms. This is Morgan Hill's new open children's area. You can see right here where my cursor is, that's the glass enclosed wall for the other 2/3 of their expansion, which is this room. It's all full of stuff because they haven't opened because of COVID yet, but it's quite a large space, and the kitchen area is over here. Morgan Hill also has quiet areas, glass enclosed rooms like this one. Glass door, glass walls. Here's the inside of it. This is what was envisioned for Woodland. Cupertino, here's their $8 million expansion, 2 floors, 5,600 square feet. They have a glass enclosed children's room that was full of stuff because of COVID, but it's quite a decent sized room. The wall this is Melvin, the wall that his back is facing, that wall is all glass to the hallway, glass door. And you'll notice their use policy. This is for kids kindergarten to 8th grade age groups. Groups can be no more than 6 kids. It's first come, first serve, and more than one group can use the room at the same time, and talking is allowed. And that's the reason it's glass enclosed room, to keep it quiet. They also at Cupertino have a glass enclosed teen group study room that's currently being used for their staff, but during COVID. But this entire, you can get an idea of how big this room is. That's their teen group study room. That's what's enclosed. They have a huge open teen area. Okay, so now let's talk about the issues and the next steps. The county selected Woodland as the pilot library for Open Plus because of its small size. And Jennifer was concerned that any expansion of Woodland might interfere with the pilot open access testing. So I think I want to go through these points and we can go back and discuss, but I think we should discuss the timing of the pilot and would the pilot testing be completed before any expansion of the Woodland branch would start. Rose expressed concern and doesn't support the expansion plans because she does not believe her staff would be safe in the larger space. She expressed concerns about having only one librarian to handle an event, whereas she has more than one librarian to handle events in the main library. So I would like to discuss what, if any, amount of additional space would be allowed, what would be considered safe. There's only one librarian to handle an event at Woodland currently. So how many more square feet would it be safe? Would a security guard solve the problem? Would NCLA possibly pay for additional staffing or a security guard that would solve that problem? And then Jennifer discussed, and this is something that the futures subcommittee needs to take up, but it was an issue that came up in our discussions. She discussed a new federal source of funds to build library infrastructure that's apparently just available. It's called Build America's Libraries, and $500 million is being allocated for California. She suggested that in view of these federal funds, the Library Commission may want to request that NCLA use its funds to commission a new feasibility study for a new main library rather than spend it on plans for expanding Woodland. And the $50,000 that NCLA has, Jennifer said that in her experience, that's more than enough to fund a feasibility study for a new library, for the main library. So with respect to that, there's some issues that need to be worked out. And number one, we need to discuss the $10 million loan that the city took out to pay for the community center. And they put up the main library as collateral for the loan. We need to talk about the teardown. Is the teardown of the main library allowed under the terms of the agreement? I know that's a question I asked in a city council meeting, and I think the answer is no. And can the community center be substituted as the collateral for the loan? And yes, that is absolutely possible under the terms of the loan. It's just whether or not they will do it, whether or not the city would do it. And then we should discuss the likelihood that Los Altos would qualify for any of these federal funds. Are they meant for low-income areas? Is the maximum amount of the federal funds $10 million? I think I'm correct in that is the case, and it has to be a matching amount. The city would have to match that amount. So, you know, that's a chicken versus the egg, you know, which comes first. So these are all things that have really made the discussion of expanding Woodland a much more complicated discussion. And I'm just putting them out there so that everybody knows what's going on and we can discuss. I think if possible, maybe we can discuss the first one, because Rose and Steve, do you have an idea of when the pilot would start? I mean, and first, if we did the pilot of open access or open plus, whatever it's called, I know that I'm correct in that all of that librarian equipment on the counter would have to be secured in some respect. I don't know if remodeling the interior of the library, even if it was just a small remodel of the space where the library staff is now, which I think, unless you just move the equipment, I mean, I think something's going to have to be done anyway. But
Right.
If you have to do that, then what I'm talking about is not a remodel of the rest of the library, because there's nothing there. It's open, completely open space. I'm talking about repositioning things, like moving the stacks, or moving the children's area, moving the adult section to where the stacks are, and putting the stacks down there so that it gives more buffer from the kids to the adults. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's not a big remodel.
So this is Julie. I'm sorry. Can I make a point of order, just clarification? How have we agendized this discussion?
Isn't it under the work plan?
Is this the work plan subcommittee? Maybe it is.
Well, no, but it's, I mean, I don't know. One of the things that Pierre has always said is that if we talk about the work plan, it's covered.
I think, well, I mean, this is under the aegis of the infrastructure subcommittee and their discoveries. So it's definitely okay. The question is, I mean, there's a lot to absorb.
There is a lot to absorb. And there's a lot that needs clarification. I mean, I don't think Rose is going to be able to, I mean, she has concerns.
Freddie?
What do we do about them?
Can you hear me, Freddie?
Yes.
We also have to consider the safety measures of Woodland, and the fact that the outside lighting would have to be improved or created. There really isn't any at this time. That's part of the remodeling.
Well, I mean, to me, what I think is the appropriate thing to do is to throw these things out and say, if you're going to do Open Plus, you're going to take a look at Woodland and decide what it needs. And if it needs more outside lighting, so be it. But again, I know I had this discussion with Jennifer about when. This is not my subcommittee, so I shouldn't be talking about this, but they asked, what do you think of, what hours do you think the library would have to be, the branch would have to be open for open access to be successful? And I said, when I spoke to Brian, he said that the plan was to only have the open access while staff was in the library. And I said, well, I thought the whole idea was to be able to have open access when the staff wasn't in the library. And so Jennifer asked me what hours did I think would be required for it to be successful. And I said, look, Bryant said nobody wants to stay after 5 o'clock. So if you're not going to have open access after 5 o'clock because you're going to require staff to be present, I think it's going to be a flop. Because if you look at the survey, if you look at the patron survey, when did they want more access to the library, specifically at Woodland? In the evening. So what's the point of doing open access if you don't open the library when people want it open or when they wanted access? It didn't make any sense to me, but I'm just saying what I think. So,
Well,
number one, I personally think, because you know, when you look at how long it would take for any expansion plans to be approved by the city and then get funded, get contracted, and get built, you know, we're talking years and years, right? So I don't know if the timing of the Woodland branch expansion would interfere whatsoever with the pilot of open access. Because I had the impression you were planning on doing that much in the near future. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, I'd say that's correct. And it's going to be, it's still kind of hard to know. Like we're still reaching out to other libraries and the company itself to see exactly what would need to be done. You were talking about things like, you know, moving the cabinets back and would we need additional lights? And those are great questions. We just haven't quite gotten there yet. And I think, you know, our intention is to move on that as quickly as possible, though. So as soon as we get that information, just try to act as fast as we can once we have what we need.
Okay.
so we're going,
And I don't know, I should say, Freddie, you said something that concerned me that, you know, Bryant said nobody there after 5. That I don't know where he came up with that.
Well, I think that's what their hours are now, right?
It is, but.
I didn't,
yeah.
He didn't say 5. He said nobody wants to stay after their time, you know, when it's time for them to get off.
Okay.
Work.
Well, you know, I'll say this, schedules change. And I'll also say that the intention was to provide some combination of morning hours and afternoon or evening hours, right? And what that combination is, you know, we can talk about that, but our understanding based on what other libraries do, it wouldn't be that there would be no staff there. It wouldn't be full staff, right? So that's the difference. It's something in between where we have at least one staff person on hand in case there's an issue, but they're not actively providing all of the services that we would normally provide during open hours. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But again,
so
my point being that if the library isn't going to be open when it was not normally open in the evenings, then I don't get the value added.
I would say since we don't have to fully staff it, we would be able to find you know, some kind of a limited staffing model where we don't have, you know, a librarian and 2 clerks and 3 pages. Maybe it's just, you know, 1 librarian there.
Okay.
this is Pierre. My understanding is this was going to be Open Plus is going to be agendized for next meeting from what Commissioner G said, where we go through this stuff, I believe.
Yeah, and that's fine. All I'm talking about here is not the program and how it's supposed to be implemented. I'm talking about the timing. I was under the impression that it's in the near future.
Yes.
Like in the next year, this coming year.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was
I would agree with that,
also
Freddie.
I think that's everybody's impression
Okay.
on Open Plus.
So I think timing, I mean, I don't see that expanding Woodland Library, even if we started on it today, would have any impact whatsoever on the pilot testing at Woodland, because of the number of years it would take to actually get even, you know, started with, you know, putting the first shovel in the ground. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think, you know, I wasn't there when you were talking to Jennifer. Maybe she was thinking, working on 2 projects at once, maybe, just so, even though we wouldn't break ground on any kind of an expansion until, who knows how long, there's still a lot of planning that needs to take place with something like that in the immediate future. So I'm speculating, but maybe that's what you meant.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to just put that one to bed, because my own personal opinion is that we aren't going to get to planning for a while.
Okay. I hear you. Yeah.
All right. The other issue is another one of these circular arguments, the chicken what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So I know the county has an algorithm for determining how many, when it hires people. And I know it has to do with circulation, and Rose has offered to see if she can get the person who she believes will be able to explain it to us most clearly to talk about this at one of our commission meetings, which I think would be great, so that we understand this whole issue of staffing. I do know NCLA provided the funding so that Woodland could have longer hours. Now, whether that entailed hiring additional staff or paying overtime, I'm not sure what they paid for, but I do know they funded longer hours at Woodland. So, if you don't expand the place and make it a library that people want to come to, especially adults, you're not going to increase circulation. You're not going to increase foot traffic. And if you can't expand the library because you don't have increased circulation and more foot traffic, then it is truly, a catch-22 circular argument type of situation. So, one of the suggestions that I thought of, because I saw security guards at Cupertino's library, and I thought, well, if it's a safety issue, having a security guard there I would think solve the problem. And maybe NCLA would pay for a security guard. I don't know. It's something, if that's really the problem, maybe let's look for a solution, is what I'm thinking. And I don't know if that's the right solution, but it's a solution.
So just to give everybody a little background, we initially started PSOs down, they're called PSOs, public service officers. They're county trained. They're not full policemen, but they are, recognized as a form of security. So we instituted that in Gilroy based on a couple of issues that happened there that were pretty intense. And it worked out well. They cut down on the number of incidents there quite a bit. So we started looking at other libraries as well. So we instituted them at Milpitas, Campbell, and Cupertino next, because those are our largest libraries that had the most incidents throughout the time that we were looking. And then the pandemic hit. So we kind of had to redirect them in different ways that I don't need to get into here. But when we started opening up our lobby services again, I'm sure you've all seen those videos of people who were pretty adamant about not wearing masks and causing issues at locations. So that was a current concern for us that we wanted to make sure we were prepared for. So we had PSOs at all of our locations at various times throughout the day. So we tried to put them there when it was busiest at given libraries as much as we possibly could. But those issues didn't luckily crop up quite as much as we thought. So, as we were reevaluating what we were seeing, we did see some specific concerns at various locations that they were surprised to see a security guard, and their community was not in favor of it. So we got a lot of comments about that. So we kind of redeployed as we thought was necessary based on what we were hearing from patrons and what we were seeing in terms of incidents. So that's kind of where we left it now. So we have one that is stationed at Gilroy at, during a 40-hour work week. And then there are 3 others that we kind of move around between various librarians.
So
I don't know if that helps at all, but.
yeah, no, I understand. And Jennifer and Rose, I think, did mention that much like school resource officers, they are, you know, have become controversial. Their presence has become
That's right.
controversial. So I don't know if it's, you know, then, you know, if money is money, it pays for it pays for people. So if it would pay for additional staffing or pay for additional part-time staffing or whatever, and whenever there is, I'm not sure when safety would be the biggest issue. Maybe it would only be part of the day. I'm not sure. But at any rate, this is something that I'd like to explore more, just to understand, you know, what is considered the amount of staffing per square foot, if that's the way it's looked at, you know, because I'm just trying to understand this. Why?
Yeah.
I'm trying to really put my head around why one librarian is good for Woodland at its current space, you know, in its current configuration of 4,700 square foot, and what it, you know, what do we need to be safe? How many more square feet is allowed?
Yeah, no, I don't, you know, I don't know that we have a specific formula. We just kind of, you know, based on our observation is mainly how we work with this. You know, thinking about how, so Los Altos is really unique in a lot of ways, right? So you guys have your main community library, and then of course there's the Woodland branch library. There's no other system like that. There's no other you know, configuration like that in our system. So it's, yeah, you guys are a little bit different in that sense. So I think with thinking back to what you were saying about PSOs too, not all incidents require a PSO, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, telling kids who are being too loud or doing something they shouldn't be doing. It's just a matter of telling them, you guys need to stop, right? It's not something we would kick them out for any length of time or anything like that. So I think it's important to recognize that at Los Altos, we have not seen the level of incidents or the severity of incidents that we thought would require a PSO. So I think, I mean, we can certainly talk about it, but I think we'd be looking at other staffing classifications rather than a PSO for Woodland if we were to go that route.
Okay, so that's good. And you know, before I didn't, you know, I actually wasn't even thinking of having this be a county employee. I was just thinking of hiring, you know, maybe we could just hire a security guard from some local security company. But
we've had mixed experiences with that.
Okay. All right. No problem. It was just I just threw it out.
Great ideas. You know, you're thinking exactly the same things we've thought over the years, you know, so you're right on target.
Okay. And then, you know, finally this situation with, this was news to me, about this new federal funding for libraries. And, you know, my God, if that's something that's actually a possibility for the city of Los Altos to take advantage of, I think we ought to look into it as quickly as possible. And, you know, to be perfectly frank, while I am very, very much enamored with expanding the Woodland Library to make it a really usable, user patron friendly library. If there is a choice, if we have to make a choice between building a new library and expanding Woodland, I would go for building a new main library in a heartbeat. And if this money is something that we really could get, and if the city could figure out how it could match, you know, if it really is a $10 million max and the city would have to match it in order for us to get it, the city would have to figure out how to come up with $10 million. And, and they'd have to substitute the community center as the collateral for the loan. But those are all things that we need to talk about, and we need to talk about them, I think, as soon as possible, because if the minute this funding is available, it's going to get sucked up. People are going to apply for it and it'll be gone. We don't want to be late to the party.
So Freddie, I'm sorry, before we move on to C, I do want to clarify, it's not that I don't support the expansion, and I'm sorry I didn't make it very clear. It's just that these safety concerns are something I do want to address if the expansion project does move forward. And I know when we talked to Jennifer about this, she did have a good idea to include that in the feasibility study. And so I think that would be the best direction forward. So, I do support it and I do want to work with you guys. It's just that I really do need to make sure that our safety is addressed. And that's why I'm bringing up these concerns. But
oh yeah, and thank you, Rose, for clarifying that. And I do know you would support it if it could be safe, if it could be made safe, right?
And Freddie, thank you for bringing up the main library as well. I think, I'm sure you guys are all on the same page on that too, right? I mean, the ideal situation is we get funding for the main library. And I think one of the things that, we've been talking about a feasibility study, and, one that would take a look at not only the main library, but also the Woodland Library and how they interact, right? Like, how does one kind of support the other in a sense? Like, what's the role of the community library versus the role of the branch library? So if we were to do a study that kind of thought about, what Los Altos libraries are as a whole, I think that would be beneficial. And of course, we'd be more than happy to work with you on that.
I have to say again, I'm becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the level of discussion. This is supposed to be a report and comment. And the fact that we're talking about agreeing that we would all support a main library rather than this, I think it's gone far beyond the scope. I think we need to stop and re-agendize this appropriately. And so from a point of order, Jamie, I would love I'm very uncomfortable.
I agree with you. I'm sorry, and I agree with you. I just wanted to let you know that this is something that I need to decide what to present to the NCLA in October. And I'm just saying to you that it is not going to be what I thought it was going to be. And these are the complicating factors. And we can leave it at that.
I would like to re-agendize this. I think it's something that we should actually discuss and not simply comment on, as we're
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry to bring that up.
No, you're absolutely 100% right. You're absolutely 100% right. Thank you, Julie.
No, and actually I was, again, it's a kind of an art form, and I know that conversations can sometimes dovetail. The intent of the commissioners, were updates, and just, I think, a reminder to the commission is that if detailed discussions are needed, it is best to agendize so that not only the commissioners have the ability to review the information, but obviously the public knows that those types of conversations are going to happen. And so absolutely for this, I think this section, I think the intent was to update the commission, and it did dovetail a little bit. And so I think just for future meetings, I think it would be best to, if a detailed conversation is needed, to make sure that that is agendized in kind of the action section of the agenda, would be best moving forward. So I was planning to close out so I appreciate the commissioners recognizing that, and then giving me the opportunity to clarify as well. So I do appreciate that. And then the other piece I wanted to note is that our Friends of the Library member has actually joined. So I know we're kind of finishing out the commissioners' reports and comments and with subcommittee. So I just wanted to share that piece.
I see Cheryl, and welcome. But I actually had a couple questions before we move on, and I know we want to agree to agendize it. And Freddie, thanks. I like the approach. I wish we would have had I've got a lot to say about the presentation, but I won't say it here. And hopefully it can be passed around. Because
I'll send it to Jamie.
And because it's a type of thing where if we had it before and we come in ready to talk about it, sort of what I tried to do with the naming thing, but that's fine. But you mentioned an NCLA issue. What is the NCLA issue that you were alluding to?
Well, the reason for the final slide to kind of present all the complicating factors is that the plan had been as of last meeting, the plan had been for me to make a presentation to the NCLA. And that's, I believe why, I'm pretty certain that that's why Cindy has asked for confirmation that we want to make a presentation at the October NCLA meeting. I was going to make a presentation about the expansion plans for the Woodland Library and ask for money for a feasibility study for that expansion.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I was conveying in my update to the commission was that those plans, I think, need to change in view of this meeting with Jennifer and Rose about their concerns, and also about the idea that the feasibility study could, as Steve said, be for the entire shebang. And I think the presentation to the NCLA should be focused in that direction. So that presentation from the infrastructure subcommittee needs to be updated and revised, but in so doing, it can't be just a presentation from the infrastructure committee. It needs to be a joint presentation by futures and the infrastructure, because the redevelopment part of this, all of that is futures. So
yes, but I think that agendizing it and making that decision as to what should be presented and which way to go, because I totally get what you're saying, but we definitely need to agendize it.
We need to rethink is what I'm updating you, saying, okay, guys, it's not, here's my presentation to NCLA, what do you think? It's the whole thing has changed. We need to relook at what we're going to present. And that needs to be, I'm almost wanting to ask for a special, session, because we only have September's meeting to discuss this before October's NCLA presentation. And I think we need more work on this. So I think it would be a good idea for the commission to have a special meeting to discuss what are we going to do with all this,
my point is we should agendize it and decide if anything, because it may, you may be looking at like such a huge, there's you brought up a lot of issues that are extremely weighty. So whether we agendize it in a special meeting, that may not be a bad idea. So we can get going on it.
I don't know. I don't know any more details than what I shared with you about this federal funding. But in my experience, anytime money's on the table, people are applying for it and it's gone before you know it. I don't even know
we need to find out.
I don't even know if we'd qualify. I don't know how we find the matching money. I don't know a lot of things.
The matching money, and will they, you brought it, are they going to collateralize? Anyway, but yeah, we should agendize it to discuss it for sure. And if we need to do a special meeting, we should do that based on the timing.
Melvin, what do you think about that? You would have to this is your bailiwick on the, the redevelopment of the new library and all that.
Yeah, I was thinking that there are a number of issues that the commission can engage with, but the heavy lifting on the redevelopment is going to come out of NCLA. What I would like to do is present information that supports that we should restart discussions with NCLA so that way they can reconstitute their efforts and provide a sense as to the timing of doing that and what some of the pros and cons, as well as what some of the resistance points are and what we as a commission can do about those resistance points. That's where I was going. I wasn't trying to create a full comprehensive plan towards getting to redeveloped library. Rather, I was trying to identify some of the things that we as a commission need to do.
Don't you think, though, that we need to redo our presentation to the NCLA with a view of just exactly what you said? But also including that the feasibility study should be a study of the new, a new library and a better, well, put it that way, a better Woodland Library. I mean, if
I'm not certain that they need to be linked. They're two separate projects, right?
Guys, again, this is not agendized. This is not agendized.
Sorry.
Let's agendize it.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to sign off. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you supporting a special meeting, a special session?
I'm supporting anything that agendizes this discussion.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Could we think about?
I would support a special meeting, Jamie,
Carol?
if we can do that.
No, and it would probably be best to do that because again, when we should close out and hopefully we're completing the updates, and then the next section is discussing potential future agenda items. So then we can talk about what that timing should be.
Okay.
So should we move on to the next section?
I have
Jamie
a question before
or
we
Carol?
move on, Pierre. I have a question for Steve. Steve, how familiar are you with Woodland?
Oh, I'm pretty familiar with it, yeah. Are you talking about the community or the library itself?
Have you been there?
Yeah, yes, several times.
Have you been there at night?
At night. I'm trying to remember when they closed back when I was there.
We're talking
Probably
about,
not past 6.
we're talking about open access, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Woodland. I would encourage you to go there at night.
Okay. Okay, sure.
That's my comment.
Okay, should we move to the next item?
And we can, and then I just wanted to share, I know we discussed, because we do have Cheryl with the Friends, so I don't know if you want to provide her the opportunity to give an update, and then we can close out with potential future agenda items.
Sure, that would be a brief update from the Friends would be great. Cheryl, you there?
Hi, sorry I was
you're on
late.
the phone.
We're having a sale tonight and at the library, and so I got home late and then didn't know how to use Ring Central. So I am the head of operations at the library, the Friends, responsible for taking in all the donations and getting them out to our various channels. We are on the agenda with the City of Los Altos on August 24th. We're asking them for a 10-year term on our land lease with the city, and we had a meeting with the new city manager that went very, very favorably, and so we're hopeful that they will grant us a 10-year lease. We're asking for that just because it helps us in terms of, giving us some stability and also just amortizing our costs over a longer period. In terms of upcoming events, we're in the midst of a 4-day sale at the library, and then we have another 1-day sale on September 11th in the library, an adult fiction and nonfiction. And then in October, we're going to have a 4-day sale at Lacey, one of our larger sales. So that's kind of what we're up to at the moment. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions, commissioners? Nope.
Okay.
I have a
No
question.
question? Oh, Carol?
Cheryl, do the Friends put notices of what you just said in the town crier?
We do. We advertise the sales in the town crier, and we also put them on our website, and we put posters up around town and on the book sale site. Sometimes also in the Palo Alto Daily.
Thank you.
Any other? Thank you for being here, Cheryl. I know that, thanks very much.
I'm so sorry I was late. This was such an interesting discussion. I wish I had not missed it, actually.
Well, we depend on the Friends a lot. You guys fund a lot of activities, a whole bunch. So thank you very much for that.
Well, we have fun doing it. So, most of the time.
So thank you. And let's move on to closing out with the future agenda items. I'm hearing we need to potentially have a special meeting between now and our next meeting in early September.
I think,
Do we?
since we have to talk between, number one, we have to agendize this. Number two, we have to talk between subcommittees. I would appreciate the opportunity.
I would, well, I don't know if we vote on this but I would definitely support that, getting together before our next meeting.
We just need, basically the rule of thumb here is that to agendize something is that it would need to be supported by 3 commissioners. And so as long as we have support by 3 commissioners, then we can go ahead and work towards, and I can coordinate scheduling that meeting.
So we have 2. Do we have a third?
Yeah, I would support that.
I'll support it.
We have 4. Everybody but Nelvin.
Yeah, I'm not so certain I'm ready for another special meeting.
Well, you're not. You just got to comment
Mm.
and listen and give us your wisdom.
Freddie, you want to not do this at the time of your surgery.
No. Hopefully my surgery is scheduled for August 16th. If everything goes as planned. And I don't want to do it for the 2 or 3 days afterwards where I'm screaming.
I would think that.
Pain.
So looking at the calendar, and this would definitely be helpful. So we could, we have I guess the question is, do we want to remain on Thursdays? We're not held to that. We could do it on a different day. What I can do is actually send out a survey of the commissioners, and you can respond back to me. I can list a few dates that would be options, and then we can see, we would minimally need a quorum to host the meeting. As a special meeting, it's only required to be posted 24 hours in advance. Our next meeting would theoretically fall on September 2nd. That is right before the Labor Day holiday. Given that we are 1 commissioner down, I just want to confirm that we would have a quorum for our next September meeting on the 2nd. Is anyone planning to not be here that Thursday on the 2nd, which is when our regularly scheduled meeting is?
I will be there. I will be here on the 2nd, but I will be out of town from the 26th to the 2nd. I come back the morning of the 2nd. So if we're scheduling a special meeting, I'm not available those days, the 26th to the 2nd.
Okay. So that does, I can list out some, so not to take up remainder of this time, but I can go ahead and suggest timings, and then we'll see if we can get a quorum of commissioners together, knowing that we have a few sections of dates that would not work. And obviously too, I think it would be helpful to, and I'll obviously coordinate with everyone, which will include county staff, because I think it'll be important to have them a part of the conversation.
Can I suggest something maybe also? Maybe we could, if we're having trouble trying to get a meeting in August, maybe we could have a discussion at our September meeting and then have a follow-up special session if we need to in September.
That is a possibility as well.
We have all of September to try to figure out what we're going to do. So
Yep.
maybe that would, I don't know, maybe that would be, at least that gives us more of a window.
I'm okay with that.
I will take a look and coordinate not only with the commissioners, but obviously county staff as well. So we will make sure to get, but minimally, this will be agendized, at least conversation on Woodland and the presentation to NCLA. Are there other future agenda items?
Can you make sure that the discussion is broad enough when we talk about the NCLA presentation, that it's broad enough to cover all the topics that we discussed tonight, or that we noted tonight, perhaps?
Yes.
Let's
The
not-
wording that we had on one of our last special meetings was to make sure that it encompassed all of those opportunities. So we will make sure that that can cover the points that need to be made.
And I also might want to suggest that it depends on some issues. I know Nelvin is looking into some issues that we require answers from the city, and maybe Steve, could we ask you to look into the particulars of this federal funding and let us know more about that? And if we would even, it doesn't, what's it for? Would we qualify?
Yeah, I mean, my recollection when I saw that was there's like a million different categories. Like it's a huge it's a huge umbrella. So let me take a look and see what might make sense. I'll have to kind of sift through that to let you know.
Okay, that would be great, because that, that's kind of like the reason to get a head start.
Sure.
Okay.
We are going to have a presentation on Open Plus, correct? I think, Nelvin, you mentioned that's being agendized. I just want to make sure it's in the. You're muted.
Nelvin, we're having trouble hearing you. Nope.
You're muted, Nelvin, somehow.
Yeah, we somehow lost your sound.
Still.
No.
Okay.
He wanted to do it on the redevelopment.
I think it was the roadmap, Pierre.
Oh, okay, not Open Plus. Can't hear.
Nelvin, what I can, because I know that was something that you provided in your update, I can confirm with you, and then we can make sure that there's it was the, can you nod, it was the roadmap, at least to get some basic feedback on that. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
not a problem. I was well, we should be getting an update on Open Plus anyway, as part of the regular thing. All right, so are there any other issues that we need to, or agenda items people want to bring up? With that, I will adjourn this meeting of the Library Commission, if everyone's in favor of that, and we shall see you. Freddie, take care.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Whatever you're having done, I'm sure it'll go swimmingly.
I'm having a knee replacement. So yeah, let's hope.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.